Welcome everybody to the Rob and Mariya Show. I am Rob.
I'm Maria, I got this time.
All right, we are here and to talk about our ongoing series of crime and disability. And we are once again excited to have Zach and Noah from the Crime Victims Center.
Thank you guys for having us.
Yes,
Oh,
thank
hey.
you for coming.
It's our pleasure. And last week we were talking about a lot of statistics that Noah was giving about different disabilities and how crime statistics differ between people with disabilities and those without. And we differentiated disabilities by, like, blindness, deafness, all of that, but also people who have multiple disabilities and how that affects the statistics. Generally speaking, persons with disabilities are 4 times more likely to be victims of simple assault and 3 times more likely to be victims of violent crime compared to people without disabilities. And that is, even though I'm aware of it, it's still very startling, Noah, if you could give us maybe just a little description of why this is the case. And I know there are many reasons, and we could do a whole series about that probably, but maybe if you could recap a little bit of what are some of the biggest reasons that we are more vulnerable.
Yeah, so just to start off with, like we're saying, 3 times more likely just all around than people without disabilities. And one of the reasons for that is more exposure to people who could abuse someone. So we're talking about your service providers, even though we're not suggesting that they are potentially abusing you right now, but we're just saying that prolonged exposure to people who have some type of power or influence over your life is enough to increase that risk factor for victimization. Another thing we see is you're segregated in a way. When you go to the service provider, it's mostly going to be people who need that service. And the only people around you might be, non-disabled people around you might be the service providers or peers, but that isolation creates a risk factor in terms of not having that space for advocacy. So that's why it's important to empower people with disabilities to know their rights, to know it's not okay to be treated in such manners, and just to train those staff members, those service providers on, what is okay, what is not okay. How do we treat people with disabilities in a way that's not abusive and that treats them the way we would treat non-disabled people?
Okay. There is a differentiation between the social model and the medical model. Now, for a long, long time, and I was aghast to hear how long, how recently we've still been talking about the medical model and following it in order to treat people, the way we treat people with disabilities. If you could give us the difference between the two.
Yeah, so medical model, it sounds exactly like the word medical. So we're talking about medicine. And with that model, it's people treating it like they're a doctor, and the disease is the disability. And so when you're talking about the medical model of disability in the workplace or in a service provider environment, with that model, they're going to treat the person with this disability like someone who has an illness, like someone who needs fixed. And that's not the case. With social model, we're now trying to implement new methods. And with social model, it teaches that the disability is the impairment brought on by society and not the person with the disability. So they're trying to change the way they treat disability through the model, because the model will affect everything in the treatment plan and the resources available.
And one of the things that really made the transition from medical to social, I think, was the passage of the ADA, or the Americans with Disabilities Act in 1990. I think that was a major component of why we now use the social model. Would you guys agree?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the whole goal of it was to kind of take away that stigma that there in the medical model that there is something wrong with someone who has disabilities.
Right.
Whereas that's not necessarily the case. Like, yes, there's certain situations where, like, different measures have to be taken to accommodate, but that's what we need to do, not fix. Like, there's nothing to fix, we just need to look at it different.
That's right. Instead of patient number 42, this is an actual person.
Yes.
Okay. Zach, what kind of things is CVC doing to make people aware and to educate, not just people with disabilities, but people without?
Yeah.
And by the way, Zach is a local celebrity here, folks, because you're seeing him on the commercials for
Yes.
CVC.
Yes.
Oh, really?
So, oh
I
yeah,
haven't seen
I
it
saw
yet.
him twice.
Oh.
And I
look
said-
out for it.
I
Can
said to
get
my-
autograph?
There's
I
a
should
couple
get-
different ones, yes.
Nice.
Well, he's gonna be charging for autographs, so
Okay.
just so
I
you
am,
know.
yes.
And I said to my roommates, oh my God, that guy was on our podcast.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I'm gonna
It's-
try to find that commercial, maybe we can put it up.
It's on local channels, and I think we have a
Channel
copy of it.
Oh my gosh,
24, I
that's
saw it on, Channel
Okay.
24.
I'll try to download it.
Yeah.
that'd be
I've just now
Or we
been
take a
seeing it.
screenshot of it,
Yeah.
yeah.
All right,
So, just about our general awareness, what we do, how we do it, and this is kind of both Noah and I's field with something like a resource fair or something that they bring us just with a table like this one, and we sit behind it, have some information packets, we have some pens and chip
Right.
clips that people can take to actually bring them to us. But it's all about trying to make sure the public is aware of us before they need us. Because most of the people who receive our services, they don't know who we are until they need us.
Yeah.
And as much as like we'll obviously be there for somebody who was victimized, we really try and get our name out there, which is why you'll see primarily our executive director, Paul. He's on commercials, he does talk shows on the radio. He's everywhere in public to advocate for us. And then we also do billboards with messages that just, help catch the eye, but also show the importance of why
Yeah.
we're here,
Yeah,
why
that's
someone
great.
might need us. And then we do social media posts for everything. January was Human Trafficking Awareness Month, and that's a big one for us because for one, it seems to gather more people's interests, just the topic of human trafficking, but it's also a real rampant issue that people do not have the right knowledge on.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's very important for us, and that's why we do days like, or we participate in days like January 11th is Wear Blue Day as part of Human Trafficking Awareness Month. And that's just about wearing blue, wear a sticker that says,
Yeah.
ask me why I'm wearing blue. So you can start those conversations because those conversations will trickle into more and more. And then we have National Stalking Awareness Day, which is you wear something sparkly or shiny. We have Wear Orange Day,
Yeah, I like
which
that day.
was
Yeah.
just on Tuesday, I believe it's the 6th. That is Teen Dating Violence Awareness Day. And it's wearing orange just to spread that awareness. And when people see our billboards, we always have in big, different colored letters and everything else, it says free and confidential. Because a lot of people don't realize that we don't charge your insurance, we don't charge you, we don't charge anybody. All of our money comes from fundraising and from the state and federal levels.
I think that's what people think, like, oh my God, if I want help, I have to pay all this money for
yeah, will my insurance cover it
Yeah, will
and
it
all that
cover
kind of
it?
thing, yeah.
Yes,
Go
and
through all
that's
of
not
that
important.
paperwork and forms, and they stop. They
We
never do that.
we do not charge somebody for seeking our services, and that's our biggest thing is, we live in, or our office is in the zip code 16501, which is in the ranking on the national level. It is the poorest zip code in the whole country. So
Wow.
we understand,
I didn't know that
like,
either.
payment is a barrier to service, and we don't want a barrier to
Right,
service.
right.
We want anybody to be able to come. And then on the confidential level, everybody at our office, from our executive director to our maintenance man to me in marketing, Noah in prevention, we cannot talk about anything that we see or hear in our offices because, sometimes you overhear stuff and it's just.
HIPAA law, and
Yes,
things like
yes,
that, yeah.
sure. We cannot talk about anything. Nobody will know unless you disclose to them that you come see us. And I think that's really important. And another thing people get worried about is.
Are you gonna tell people that I'm here,
Right,
exactly.
Right.
advertise, she's here,
Oh, sure, yeah.
So that's just a couple of our awareness measures.
It seems like when you go through the statistics, it should almost be common sense that we would be more vulnerable. But I can tell you in my own case, I've been in a chair over 40 years. And like I was telling you, I've done some things that I look back on now and think, boy, that was stupid. You really got away. You really got away with something, okay? And I think, whether you have a disability or not, there's a tendency to think crime happens to somebody else. It's not gonna happen to me. And how much more important it is to get that idea that you can be a victim to people with disabilities because we are so much more vulnerable. So what do you think, Zach, in terms of getting the word specifically to people with disabilities? I mean, we talked a little bit about one idea.
Yes. So we had a little discussion about the possibility of bringing us, probably us four, into places that house people with disabilities, or even just
Or provide services.
to, and just make sure that not their staff big time of what to look for. What are some signs that somebody is might be a victim of abuse, or how to look for signs that you are, because a lot of times you don't really have that moment where you're like, maybe what they're doing to me isn't right. And I think it's really important for everybody who's working with people with disabilities to understand what to look for, what they should be doing, what they shouldn't be doing, how to talk about it. And like we said, we can go into places and we can give these, like almost like this. We can walk in there and we can talk to them about what to look for.
So you could talk to the staff, let's say it's EHCA, okay, Erie Homes for Children and Adults. You could talk to the staff, but you could also talk to the clients.
Yes, absolutely.
Side by side.
Sure, why not?
Yeah, I think it's important for every participant at all levels to be informed on what to look for, how to know when something wrong is happening. Just keep everybody as safe as possible.
Okay, great.
The more you know, kind of thing.
Yes, that's really
exactly
true.
it.
Knowledge is power.
It's very easy for someone to be ignorant and unintentionally to this stuff, because it can be uncomfortable to talk about, but that's kind of one of the reasons we do all of our advertising and our awareness is it shouldn't be uncomfortable to talk about. We should talk about it more to spread more awareness and to try and prevent some of this.
I think my biggest regret is like being so naive and so trusting and so like, oh, I want friends, you know what I mean? And
Well,
like,
that's true.
I want a
Yeah.
community. So it took a while for me to understand not everybody's good for you, not everybody wants the best for you, you know what I mean? And learning that two different things, it was hard for me because I didn't know what to look out for. So it's good to know.
Well, about 30 years ago, I was and I was living not in a great neighborhood, but I was wheeling from State Street back to my apartment, which was about 3 blocks away, and it started to rain, and I was so tired anyway, that this guy comes up to me, he says, "Do you need a hand?" I said, "Yeah, oh, thanks." And right outside the apartment, it was dark, and I got mugged. And he took not my whole wallet, thank God, but all the money in it. And when I talked to the cop, he said something interesting. He said, he may not have had the idea to rob you right away, But
then it
in the
can't.
course of pushing you up the street, he might have thought,
This is
hey,
an
here's an
easy
easy
target,
mark.
yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And back in my freelance writing days, I wrote an article about why do men rape? And in my research, and the reasons are complex, but one of them is because they can. In most cases, men are physically stronger than women. So at some point in their lives, if they're of that mentality, which is a whole nother subject, they're going to probably have the opportunity to do that at some point.
Mhm.
So, yeah, I mean, all of these things we need to make aware
Yes.
to people with disabilities and their caretakers.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. All right, folks, thank you so much for tuning in. And this series is ongoing. We're going to have 2 more in March, March 1st and March 8th. It's going to be about financial crimes, and the 8th will be about cybercrime. So that'll be an interesting one. Folks, if you love what you hear today, share it with your friends, okay? Share it up there. And
If you want more information, we'll be providing a link, and if you have questions, please reach out to us,
Yeah.
and we'll try to
And
answer.
our website has a bunch of information at cvcerie.org.
And folks, if you suspect abuse or you know someone who you think is being abused, don't hesitate to reach out to the CVC or CRI.
Yes,
Get
we
you
have
the right
a,
resource for that.
we have a 24-hour, 7 days a week helpline that you can call at any time.
Okay. Thank you, Brandon. Thank you, Noah. I am Rob.
Maria,
See you next time.
bye. Wait, 1 second. Oh.